So the whole idea behind the name 3/4 choppers and what I'm doing in my shop is that I'm building bikes to the point where they're about 3/4 done. You know, buying parts and pieces and fabricating the parts and pieces that it takes to put a rolling chassis together, you know, plus a motor. But the idea there is that I'll do all the hard fabrication, all the assembly of front ends, motor, trans, primary, but you know, getting the tank to sit right, getting the bars that I think suit the build, getting the fender and the sissy bar correct and the seat correct. It'll be a put together bike, fabricated parts, but it'll still leave room for the frame paint. It'll still leave room for the paint color of the bike, or maybe the handlebars and grips and foot controls and stuff like that. That can be something that the customer can make if they wanted to buy the bike 3/4 of the way through. It still leaves room for them to personalize it in the end, and they can buy it as is and take it if they want to do that, or they could still continue to hire me to finish the bike with them and for them and turn it into a full-fledged chopper. But I will be pricing my bikes in 3/4 fashion so that it leaves room for people to finalize it the way they want. So that's the basis behind what I'm doing.
It's definitely a cool idea, and I think it gives people who wouldn't normally have an opportunity to have like a cool custom chopper.
Offering the fabrication done seems to be a neat line of getting bikes out there, but them still having a part of it.
Every single chopper you do is going to be different because it's coming out of your head, right? Like it's your own design, and like you said, like your vision for this bike, for the Shovelhead, isn't the same as the vision that you have for this bike, right? Like,
the goal is to always try and make it look the smoothest.
Where it looks like it belongs that way.
Looks like it belongs that way, yeah.
Okay guys, I'm here with Cory at his shop, 3/4 Choppers. I met Cory actually a year or something ago at the Peach City swap meet, and I was really intrigued by Cory's custom metal work that he does. He does all kinds of custom motorcycle fabrication, and he's actually the one who organizes the chopper ride, the Choppers Till I Die ride. There's another video on that you guys can go back and watch, but I just wanted to come here and check out his shop. I've been trying to get here for a while, but chopper life keeps us all busy, so it's been a little tricky just lining up our schedules, but I'm finally here, and Cory's got a few bikes on the go. So Cory's just going to tell us a little about what he does. We're going to check out some of his bikes.
Yes, I've always dabbled in hot rods and motorcycles for the last 20-25 years, just as a personal interest. It's been a passion of mine forever. Whether I'm building myself a hot rod or helping friends work on theirs, or bikes, doing little fabrication stuff and doing things for myself or for friends. But recently wanting to start an actual business and wanting to have it making motorcycles, you know what I mean, and fabricating parts for motorcycles. So there's certain parts that have to be bolted on, right? You buy an engine, you buy a front end, you find wheels and stuff that kind of work, and then, you know, just making this seat fit on there and fit properly is a task, right? And making the tank fit properly is a task.
Yeah, a lot of people don't actually see that side of fabricating. Like, they'll look at something like this, and to the untrained eye, it looks like a bunch of parts that bolt on, and just bolt onto the frame, but they don't realize all the work that's involved to make it actually fit. Can you just talk a little bit about the Shovelhead and like what you've personally done on this, like what kind of fabrication you've done, what parts you've made?
So this particular frame is called a gooseneck frame now. This one was cut in a fashion and extended in a fashion where the backbone was extended 6 inches and changed to a single down tube with the S-curve. It gives it a gooseneck style where a normal frame would be ending about here, but it has that 6 inches of stretch in it now. Having to stretch that and de-rake it and stuff gives it that really long, low, what I call almost like a Japanese style of like beach cruiser style bike. And I also shortened this front end to 3 inches, so it kind of gives it that like steamroller look, lowrider kind of bike. Because it's got a shovel head in it, I wanted to make sure that I did things that were old school.
You're correct in
and same with even the tire tread too. These are Shinko, a vintage tire tread, and they're matching 16-inch wheels front and back. I tried to add as many custom elements as I could by making my own pipes here too as well. So these started out as shovel head pipes, but they had big like cone mufflers on them and all that, and I basically just like cut pieces and reworked them the way that I wanted, so they had a parallelism to them, and then they kicked up again a little bit to that old school of fishtail style pipes, and then machined some little end caps that just kind of give it a little fit and finish on the end of the pipes. And then even like you were mentioning before too, the things that people don't notice, what I find about that I really like is that when someone doesn't see the oddities of the bike, the less questions, the better, because then it feels like it's cohesive and it feels like it's just like they look at it and they're like, oh, that looks so cool. It sort of lends to the fact like, okay, great, I did a good job, because it just looks right. It doesn't look like parts slapped together. It doesn't look like a bunch of bolted on stuff or whatever, you know, thrown together.
Yeah, totally.
You know, it looks like this is the way the bike was meant to be. And this part right here, this oil bag, is from Lowbrow Customs, which is like a brand new company or whatever, but I picked this pill style round oil bag because I knew it would look great with that tank, to have that round bulbous look and all that, but I still had to make all the mounts on the frame and figure out how to get it all sitting in there so you can still access the filler cap and all that, and the exhaust pipe goes right around it, and you know, so everything has a reason. Another cool thing that I did on the back of this bike was this little fender. Actually, I'll start by saying this is a spare tire cover from a 1947 Packard car, and so I decided to cut it, and I knew that it would fit perfect with a 16-inch tire, and it's got the exact radius like that. And then another neat little thing that I did here was I made this fender tab bracket here so that when you're adjusting the chain on this rear wheel, I can loosen some bolts and slide this forward, and I can move the fender forward and move the tire forward, and I can always save this little 1/4 inch tight fender look. So this is an original Harley front end, normally 3 inches longer than it is right now. These triple trees is de-raked, so I think it's around a 26-degree rake. Most bikes are around 28 or 30, and most choppers are around 30 to 34 or something like that. So what I've done on this bike is I've actually sectioned the front down tubes here and taken away 3 inches. You know, with that comes a lot of unseen fabrication where I slugged the inside of both of those tubes, put them back together, made my own dropouts, and on the front and on the back. And on my Instagram page, there's a little bit of like a step-by-step of how it was done, and you can see one cut and one long still, and then the next one done, and it's a bit of a process, but this took me about a week or two to like do something like this and get it to this point where it looks normal again. So this bike started out with a Craft Tech rigid frame. It's got 34 degrees of rake, but it's a fairly stock height in the backbone and down tubes. They call it a stock frame, but it does have a little bit of a chopper rake to it. I added the Harley Springer front end that I shortened a few inches just to give it a little bit lower, tighter of a look, like a D-rake look with a shorter front end. So with that 21 on there, it really looks nice and tight and is better for that lane splitter style look. I made these bars as well. They're called lane splitter style bars, where they're nice and narrow and that you can kind of like tuck in the bike a little bit. The whole idea behind narrow lane splitter bars is that if you're ever going in between cars or passing or whatever, like you don't want to clip your bars on anything, you don't want to be too wide or anything like that. Like big huge fat chopper is not going to lane split between cars as good as a tight little chopper, right? The tank is what you call Frisco style, way high up on the backbone like that. Choppers are all about small, minimalistic looking parts, so having a little Sportster tank like that, it's a smaller capacity, but as soon as you put it up on the backbone really high like that, you get the maximum amount of gas to the bottom. The petcock got moved down to the bottom so that you get the maximum amount of fuel out of it. This bike has a 1996 Evolution motor in it with a 5-speed trans and a closed primary on this one. All business kind of thing, a nice, fast, reliable motor in a small little bike. I love Shovelheads and I love Evos too, but you know, 99 and under is kind of the style or the use that I do with these things. When you have an Evo motor, you still got lots of performance, lots of power. There's still lots of parts available everywhere. I was really excited about making some pipes for this bike, so I took some fishtails off of some older exhaust and used those chrome fishtails, but built the rest of the pipes to have that parallelism sort of look, and the flames kind of ended up matching with the fishtails, so it kind of blends together.
Even the white walls and the
yeah, exactly. It kind of has that black and I even went as far as making my own sissy bar on this bike too. So I bent that up from 1/2-inch cold rolled steel and made the little fender bungs. And again, this bike has the other half of the Packard rear tire cover. So you know that tight little small little fender works really well with the 16-inch wheels. And this one has a 16-inch rear wheel on the back and a 21 on the front. So I had originally started a seat pan for it. That's on my Instagram page as well. The process of building the seat pan, but it's out at the leather shop right now in a Soyuz, so I don't have it here. I wanted to do as many custom things on this bike as I could, and this is actually a bike that I'm going to be finishing all the way to completely rideable. Like I'm only needing to finish bolting on the primary, the chain, and the wiring, and putting some forward controls on it, and this bike will be a rideable finished bike. It'll be a full a 4 out of 4.
Okay, so this is a little bit different, this one, with the ultra wide front end. But you were telling me about these triple trees and just kind of like your vision for this whole bike and like what you want it to look like. And it's something that you've had in your mind for like a long time, it sounds like, and you're kind of finally making it come to life.
Yeah, this idea has been in my head for a long time, and some people might remember a company called Exile Cycles back in the early 2000s. They were like on Biker Build Off along with Jesse James and West Coast Shoppers and all that, and I was inspired by, this is what they call the Steamroller look, where it's got a big fat Steamroller tire up front, or sometimes known as cat squasher up front. You're right, they are very, they're not very common, and especially up here in Canada, I don't think I've even seen one like that on a chopper. So the idea behind this bike was to develop a set of triple trees that were wider than a stock wide glide front end, which you can usually fit a 160 or a 180 max, and I'm talking about 160 or 180 millimeter wide tires. Harley wide glides can accommodate for that, but I really wanted to have that Steamroller look where it has a 200 on the back and a 200 on the front. So the wheels are matching 18 by 5.5s. It lends to that look again of a long, low, fat chopper. So these triple trees had to be machined from a friend of mine locally here. We got the concept in mind, and I had the frame already, and I had kind of the idea of how high I wanted it to sit. So I had to buy these Arlen Ness lower legs, these gold anodized tubes in the 49 mil, which is like 2014 and up road glide parts, so to speak, custom road glide parts. So we made all the R&D to fit that stuff, accommodated onto these triple trees, and it still had to work with the original, chopper neck and stuff like that. So yeah, the next thing that blends right from that 200 tire going up to the forks is these bars. I did want to go with a little bit fatter 1.25" bars here. And then even though this is originally where the hand controls and the levers and all that stuff would go, I'd really like a nice, clean, smooth look on this bike where I'm planning to eliminate this part of the bar, and I'm going to run an internal throttle right here where the throttle cable, all you'll see is a grip. There'll be no handbrake, and the throttle cable will go through the bar link and come down here. And then I also want to take it a step farther, which I have not seen in person yet. I know it's been done by some chopper companies down in the States, but I want to do an internal clutch on this side where it's also just going to be a grip right here only, but the cable is going to run down and run into the clutch, and you're going to be twisting the clutch like this, putting it into gear with your foot, and then you're going to be twisting this for gas, so you're going to be going like this to like put it in gear. Clutch in, select the gear, and then gas out, and then let the clutch out. 2
grips and no levers.
And no levers at all. No clutch lever and no brake lever. And the way that I'm going to still end up with brakes on this bike is I'm going to do a brake foot pedal on the right hand side, but I'm going to do a T proportioning valve. I'm going to do a 60-40 split of brake power, so it's going to run fluid to the front brake, run fluid to the back brake at the same time just by pushing one foot brake. So you eliminate needing a handbrake. Like, not anyone's just going to be able to jump on this bike, and it's probably going to take me a long time to like figure it out too and make sure I don't crash it, God forbid, but it'll be interesting for sure. So I've got a lot to do on this bike still, but so far I've just laid this out and I've got an idea of what I know it's going to look like, and then now it's going to be a lot of fabrication, but this one's kind of been on the back burner because it's going to be more of a personal bike for me. So I've been concentrating on my customer bikes more so. Yeah, once these ones move along and tables open up, I'm going to start concentrating on this one, and this will be one of my next major builds. So this is another Craft Tech frame, 34-degree rake, no stretch in the down tubes, no stretch in the backbone. On this bike, I wanted to have a 39 mil Sportster front end on it with a skinny little chopper tire up front, and I was able to do a 16 on the back with a nice little trailer fender. I actually kind of used more aftermarket parts on this bike when it comes to the sissy bar, license plate bracket, the tail light, the handlebars, the front end. A lot of it is bolted on parts, even the exhaust and all that. This is a 1988 FXR Evolution motor with a 5-speed tranny again. The highlight of this bike for me is the tank that I built. This started out as one of those built well shells, they call it, where it's only the top shell of the tank and they leave the bottom open. So it's basically for builders that want to have a deep tunnel or a shallow tunnel or whatever they want to do to it. So I took that and I made my own bottom to the tank. I did something called boat sides where I tunneled the tank as deep as I could, and instead of just having a flat bottom on the tank, I added 1.5 inches of length from the front to the back and tapered it, and what you end up with is like the side of a boat. So if you stand back and look at the bike from the side, you can actually see the angle of the bottom of the tank rather than being flat. This is something, again, again, I probably spent like so many hours making that happen. I've got on my Instagram page showing like how I started with just the shell, how I bent the tunnel, how I, you know, made all the pieces and fabricated it together. And on this one, I had to make my own filler neck, like petcock and all that. And, you know, so again, this tank was made specifically for this frame and this bike. You know, there are some things like this lowbrow seat that fits nicely on there. It's, you know, the option of having a two-person seat on there. This bike has a bit more chrome to it, but again, you know, with an Evo motor and a 5-speed trans and all, this one's going to be a good, solid rider bike. It'll be reliable, it'll be fast, and it's got the narrow little front end and bars, so it'll be a fun little chopper.
It's going to be another one of your 3/4 choppers, so
yeah.
This is going to be for sale.
Yeah, this one is for sale as it is right now. As you can see, the frame's unpainted, the tank and fender's unpainted, so again, all the fabrication is done. This front end is bolted in place properly, the front wheel's in place, the handlebars, the rear fender and all the axle spacers and the rear brake, the tail light. Everything has its place already, but this one still needs paint on the frame, paint on the tank and fender, and forward controls, and then wiring in the end. So it's 3/4 done and ready for someone to either take over the project or hire me to finish the bike. And, you know, I have connections for painting and stuff like that.
Each of the bikes in here have like different amounts of, you know, your personal touch on them, right? Like,
yeah,
like the Shovelhead definitely has like a lot more of like your personal fabrication and stuff like that going on it, right?
Yeah,
like,
because that was all old parts that wouldn't necessarily have been together, but now that I've put them together, it takes some vision to make them all work together. And yeah, that frame was really bare. Like, it didn't have any tank mounts, didn't have any fender mounts, no seat mounts, no nothing.
Yeah.
Whereas these Crafttech frames, they know that an Evolution motor is going to go in it. They know they have an exhaust brackets and stuff. And if you use a Sportster front end or a Springer front end even, you know that they're going to fit on there.
Thanks, Cory, for letting me come and show off your
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, and like always, guys, if you like what you see, or if you just like me, or even if you don't like me, but you like my bikes or Cory's bikes, then like this video, comment, subscribe, do all those things you guys do, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Peace. Like, I'll just watch my stuff sometimes and be like, Angel, you are retarded.
Finished work.
4/4 shopper.
It'll be a full a 4 out of 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it'll be a 4. Yeah, that's funny. It'll be 100%er.
Yeah, tomorrow, which tomorrow is tomorrow for us, but for you guys, it'll be like 2 weeks.
Past.